Okay, I'm here with manager
TJ Stanton.
TJ Stanton of the New York Boulders, almost at Rockland again. The New York Boulders. You've got a pretty big pitching roster there, 15 pitchers.
Yeah, we have 15 listed in camp right now. We actually are planning on going into the season with about 14. We have a lot of quality arms. Yeah.
So you're going to have like almost half your team as pitchers.
Yeah.
Are any of the pitchers that you have utility play that can play other positions, or?
No. And in fact, we're likely going into the season with 10 or 11 position players. We have great versatility, so our position players can play multiple positions all over the place. It's a lot like constructing it. We do it a lot like Little League All-Stars, where the infield is full of shortstops and the outfield is full of center fielders.
Are you from the area here?
No, I'm from South Florida in Port St. Lucie, where the Mets do spring training camp, and I've lived in Canada for the last 10 years.
I'm a diehard Mets fan, so I know that Port St. Lucie.
That's right.
Diehard Mets since 1967, through thick, thin, and everything else.
You've been to Port St. Lucie?
No, I've driven by it. I haven't been to the stadium there.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to get down there during spring training and stuff.
In this building, we call that Little Clover in Port St. Lucie. This is Big Clover.
Okay. What do you think? This is your 6th year as manager.
Okay.
So you were here when it was the Rockland Boulders in the Can-Am League, and
that was all post COVID. So I took over in 21. The transition, the first year was that year.
Okay.
So I managed against the Boulders prior to that when I was with Trois-Rivières in Canada.
Okay, so you played against them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask this. So you were in the Can-Am League to begin with. What difference did you see in the Can-Am League and the Frontier League?
Well, right off the bat, the Can-Am League had different rules for roster construction than the Frontier League, where the Can-Am League would say, okay, we want about 1/4 of our roster under the age of 26 and 3/4 over the age of 26. The Frontier League switches that, and with 3/4 of our roster under 26 years old, and then we have that big chunk, or that smaller chunk of higher experience. But the biggest difference that we do that in the Frontier is because that 26 and under is the group that gets signed the most by affiliated baseball. So the Frontier League is very focused on producing players that supplement affiliated baseball, and we've been very successful here. And the biggest difference, I think, is that in the Can-Am, there was a lot of players that would play for a long time and many years, but we have many players that are very much on the radar of affiliated baseball, and we have them for as long as we have them, type deal.
So you could end up losing one of your major players in the middle of a season.
Last year, we were one of the best teams in the league for placing players. We had 3 guys signed prior to the season and 3 during season, and it doesn't stop there, because after the season we had another 3, and we plan on having more signed during the year. It's part of the culture that we're trying to build here.
Okay, then let's look at that for a moment. What does that do to your strategy for the year when you got, let's say, your first baseman who's playing a great job, hitting the ball, and all of a sudden now he's gone? How do you adjust to that?
The first thing we do is we get them in the clubhouse and we announce it to the boys, and it turns into Mardi Gras in the clubhouse because we very much are not scared of that. We are as an organization are promoting our players to affiliated baseball. Now it just puts a little bit more pressure on me and my staff, because not only do we have to build it and construct a team that is good to compete and win at the Frontier League level, but we also are demanding that we build a team that has the type of talent that will get signed. And it just turns into, we have to be ready for the next man up, and our recruiting, and it never stops.
Right, but you talk about pressure. What type of pressure does put on the team when all of a sudden now, do you have that?
If we have a pitching ace, he will get signed.
No, okay.
That's it.
No, I understand that, but what I was trying to say before I stumbled over my own tongue was, you lose a player. Now you got a vacuum, a gap in the team. how do you do you have a depth enough on the team to be able to fill that gap without losing any momentum and any pace you've got going?
Well, there is the silver lining to losing a impact player is that it gives great morale to the clubhouse, and the players that are unsigned see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it gives great energy to the group. That helps us sustain for a little bit, and it just makes a lot of pressure on me and my staff to replace players because we don't have the depth in house. We have to go and get it.
So if you lose a player, then you go on a hunt for another player.
But we just stay in a constant state of hunting because we're anticipating players get signed.
And so you had three. So you had about 6 last year during the season. 3 before, 3 during, and 9 actually. 3 after.
Yeah, 3 in the winter.
Wow, that's amazing. Out of a roster that that you're talking about, what, a 25-man roster?
You
lost a third of your
there's a
team.
big chunk of my cell phone contacts that are in high A right now.
What do you see your strengths are for this season?
Going into this year, we loved where we finished up last year, and it was very important that we kept that core together and then supplemented it with more. And we managed to do that. We finished with a great group last year. We kept that together, and then we supplemented it with starting pitching, bullpen, and positional players. And honestly, right now, we like where everything is at. We like where our rotation is at. We like where our lineup is at. But I rest easy knowing that we have elite defenders. We're going to play fantastic defense, and we have a very, very good bullpen.
What's your rotation? A 5-man rotation on the pitching?
We go 6-man.
6-man. Wow.
Yeah.
And you have what? How many games this season?
100. Or 106.
106. Okay. What do you see? Do you see any areas that might need a little tweaking, a little improvement?
Well, our philosophy is always kind of in that way, and what we have right now is very solid. It's impossible to know until we get it out there in the water to see where the leaks are. There's no way to know where the leaks are until you get in the water. So we do love that we can rest easy knowing we have elite defenders and an elite bullpen. Everything else, we like where it's at, and we got to build up. But we love knowing that we have those two things.
What's the biggest complaint the team has about like workouts and stuff and things like that? Do they complain about any of that stuff, or?
Honestly, no. I handle all the recruitment of the roster all winter long, so I get a very, very good read on the player personality and kind of how they got to that point. And there's a lot of really good players that I don't bring in. I very much want hungry players that are striving for the opportunity and more opportunity. And they love that they get this opportunity, and they want more and more and more. Very hungry group. So no, they're probably more complaining that we don't train enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Ask the question.
What's your playing style of baseball? What's your style?
Our style is completely predicated around defense and aggression. Like, we want aggressive everywhere. Aggressive on the base pass. We steal bases. We're very aggressive on the base pass. We're very aggressive pitching. We want to attack at all times. And so we just have a general overall attack. We always score runs. Our groups always are in the top 3 for every offensive category. And when we have it humming, our pitching and defense are there.
What was your greatest moment as a manager? You were a player before, right? Did you play in the Can-Am League, or where did you play?
Yeah, played in all different leagues and minor leagues and everything like that.
Let's start with that as a player. What was your greatest moment as a player, then your greatest moment as a manager?
Player is very easy. I had a great, fun career, played 12 years, but in 2010, I was a starting pitcher for Fargo Red Hawks in the American Association, but against the Kansas City Monarchs, I pitched for the championship, the deciding game of the championship. I threw a one-hit, 9-inning, 16K game of my life type deal. So that one's real easy.
What about as a manager? 6 years with the Boulders. 6 years with the Boulders. You've made it to the playoffs most of the time. Won a couple of championships. But what was your greatest moment as a manager?
I think my favorite moment as a manager with the Boulders specifically was in 2022. We started off the season very poorly, very slowly.
I remember.
And we couldn't score. Pitching was fine. It was solid. But our offense couldn't score. About 20 games through, we've got 5 wins in 20 games. I pulled the whole group in, the whole lineup in, and explained to them that they were pressing, that they were good, and that everybody that we needed to make this work is in this room right now. And it was like a light switch that went off, and that group went crazy and set every league record for offense. We set records for runs scored, doubles, everything. Like, that was great.
What was a moment that you wish hadn't happened? One of those moments like, oh my God.
That was my fault?
No, not your fault. Just one of those moments where you look down and you got through a game and you're like, oh God, I wish that hadn't happened. It's one of those.
Probably half of the ejections that I've been a part of. I probably regret those. About half of them. Yeah.
And the other half, you're like, half of them you deserve, half of them you're like, I shouldn't have gotten.
Or like half I should have avoided more like that. Yeah.
Well, what was the worst call you've ever seen that you've had to?
That's real easy. We were playing Quebec Capitals, and Jason Agresti hit a grand slam right over that Howard Hanna Realty sign. It hits right off the railing, shoots off because it hits steel, and the umpire couldn't figure that out. And I immediately got ejected out of it.
A question. What player you should watch for this year? Are they power hitters? Who's the best player in the team right now?
I would say the 2 players that are the most likely to pop for affiliated baseball would be infielder Kyle Hess. He was with us the second half of last year, used that experience and built himself up over the winter with that taste. And he had an amazing winter. A lot of orgs are very much aware of what he's doing. And he's a fantastic guy. And we have a new pitcher named Connor Godwin that was with High A in the Dodgers system last year. The stuff is electric. He's still very, very young. He's very much on the radar of affiliates. So those 2 players specifically are very much on the radar.
You've talked about players playing in the winter. Do you coach during the winter? Do you manage during the winter on any teams? Doing winter league stuff?
No. I just built this thing up.
So this is your life.
I did salary cap. This is my sandbox. It's a fun job.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.